Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith Atibi. This is News Central Now, and here are the top stories at this hour. The federal ministries begin scorecard briefing in Abuja ahead of President Tinubu's second anniversary in office. Police in Anambra rearrest SKP suspects connected with the murder of state lawmaker Justice Azuka. And Rwanda condemns U.S. government sanctions over conflict in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Details shortly. The federal government on Friday made good its plan to resume its ministerial scorecard series ahead of the second anniversary of President Bola Tinubu's administration on May the 29th, 2025. The sessions are meant to underscore the administration's commitment to transparency, accountability, and effective communication with the Nigerian public. Leading the park for Friday's presentations were the ministers of Livestock Development, Idi Maiha, and Regional Development, Abubakar Momo. Let's take a look. Joining us now is Barrister Evans Ufeli. He's an attorney at law and good governance advocate, and he joins us from Atlanta in the U.S. Evans, many thanks for doing this with us. You've heard what the ministers had to say, and this is essentially to lead us to May 29th, which is going to be the second anniversary for this president's administration. What are your thoughts?
Well, we have not seen the desired development that is required of this government. Okay, and the president have consistently pushed the ministers forth to the people, to brief the people, to brief the Nigerian people about what they are doing and not doing in order to better the lives of the people. And while that is commendable and good, I think that these ministers have no mandate of the people. It is the president whom we are going to hold responsible. Because the last year, they did something, and I was looking at this practice. Is it an innovation or some kind of display of joke? Because the thing they said last year that they are doing what they have done, the manifestation has not still been seen. Okay, we've not seen development until today. We are going to 2 years now. This government have not built any block of development. Last week, they told us that Nigeria is now have left the 4th position of the largest economy in Africa, and we are now number 1. Meanwhile, in January, they told us that Nigerian economy is growing slowly, that it will take a lot for it to come back to shape. Whilst we're number 4. Now they just all of a sudden they turn around and say we're now number 1. Why that is, that should be investigated, because the World Bank and IMF came up with that. I don't understand it. So the bottom line of my thought is that, right, the ministers can say what they are doing, express what they are doing, about to do to the people, but it is not the ministers that were voted into office. The president is the one that holds the mandate. And so whether they are telling us the right things or the wrong things, the president should still be held responsible for the actions and inactions of this minister, because he appointed them based on the mandate that the people gave to him. And he should stop pushing forth. You know, he started this even during his campaign when he went to Chatham House. Started pushing people forth to talk on his behalf to the people. And he replicated it post-election with his ministers last year, and now he's repeating the same thing. I hope at the end of the day, when they begin to fail, we will not be asked to go and we will not be told that these people told you what they were doing and what they were not doing at that time. I just want us to be on record on this issue.
Right. I mean, critics have also, just like yourself, drawn a line between declared stewardship and the actual impact of government policy on the people. And how has this government hit the mark for you in the last 2 years?
In the last 2 years, I have not seen any meaningful development. All I have seen in the last 2 years is the NNPCL and Dangote battling a battle of supremacy. I have seen poverty at the last 19 months have been the most horrible 19 months in the history of this country. Okay, inflation hits a mark that is unbelievable. Okay, poverty rules, the misery index is unbearable, is incredible. Okay, so the cost of living, food items, staples, has gone out of reach completely. Okay, so now people are not just battling with survival. Some people are bleeding. You know, some in exchange for that, they have gone into heinous crimes. Okay, so the country is not in a place where you send ministers to go and talk to the people. The country is not in that place where you send ministers to go and talk to the people. The country is in a place where you have to organize media chats every week. Every week. Just like the fake meeting, wherein you bring the people exactly, because you see, whether the mandate was given or stolen, all the same is a mandate. So somebody has occupied that position with promises, And that promises must be fulfilled. That promises must be fulfilled. Because yesterday, they gathered to launch a book. All those who destroyed the country, they gathered and faced us, and they were telling us that the election was actually not, and they were apportioning blame to the dead. Who's going to speak for the dead? What I'm trying to say by this digression is that these ministers who are saying all this, all they are doing and all that, should come with evidence. The president should present that evidence to the Nigerian state, because we are suspicious of what they are saying, and the president's diversionary approach to this by putting forth ministers to interface with the people directly is not a safe thing to do, because this is suspect. And I'm saying this clearly on national TV that at the end of time, the president will still be held responsible, and he must account for the 4-year term that was given to him, for which he promised to change the lives of Nigerians from removing subsidy to the day he leaves office, because the lives of the average Nigerians declined terribly.
I mean,
the moment he took the oath of office.
Evans, as we talk about the promises of this administration, one of them is they ran on the manifesto or the agenda of renewed hope, and that seems to be a recurring rhetoric for members of this administration. Has the government hit the mark for you in the last 2 years regarding that promise? And if they've not, in terms of, I mean, you say that they have not in addressing the question of hunger and widespread poverty, how then can they, turn is it too late to turn the tides?
Well, it's not too late in the day. They talk about renewed hope, but the people are hoping against hope. You see, hope is not enough, and hope is not a strategy. Okay, hope is not an economic policy. So don't tell us about renewed hope. Give us indices, get to the root of the problem of the average Nigerian, which has to do with hunger, inability to feed. The worst thing that can happen to you is when you are unable to feed in your own country. It means that the government has failed completely. I mean, there are dreams and aspirations of the human person, wherein if you are not able to achieve these lofty dreams, you should at least fall back to the capacity of survival and the ability to feed yourself. We have also lost that. Is that bad? That's what I'm saying. So this government should go to the root of the problem, and that is to use the 744 local government as a way to come about this and find a creative way to reach the people, from this 744 local government by creating grassroots programs, okay, that will hand over maybe soft loan credits to business people, and that same trader money, whatever money they did pre-election, that is where they're supposed to go back to now. Okay. If it was not for vote buying, they should have continued it. Okay. But they are not doing that. So they should go back to the welfare packages and programs.
Evans, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us today. Evans Ofeli, the attorney at law and good governance advocate, joining us live from Atlanta, United States of America. Let's go on a short break, our very first break for this hour. But when we return, controversy rages over Saturday's planned local government elections in Osun State. We have the details just after this break. Stay with us. And welcome back. The Anambra State Police Command, led by the State Commissioner of Police CP Ikoyi Orutugo, has announced the rearrest of 2 new suspects involved in the abduction and killing of the lawmaker representing Onitsha Constituency 1 at the State House of Assembly, Honorable Justice Azuka. News Central's special correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshal Anthony Onoye, who was present at a press conference held on Friday at the State Police Command, reports that of the 9 suspects initially arrested following a joint operation by joint security forces over the murder of the lawmaker, 2 suspects who were said to have fled from police custody during an operation to apprehend another suspect also linked to the abduction and killing of the lawmaker are still on the loose, casting a shadow of doubt on the credibility and integrity of the police on the investigation. The police has since exonerated itself from any complicit in the escape of the fleeing suspects, while stating that the officers responsible are still being questioned and efforts to rearrest the fleeing suspects are in top gear.
Ikemefuna Osai from Delta State and Chinedu Ukoli from Imo State, out of 11 suspects confessed and already arraigned, were taken out for investigation activity. Chinedu and Ikemefuna are not the principal suspects. The two suspects now missing are not, for purpose of emphasis, they are not the principal suspects. They are drivers that drove vehicles for the suspects. That is not to say they have a right to escape. They are suspects, they partook in the crime. So we have a responsibility to go after them and produce them. But for anyone to say that the principal suspects have escaped or police have carelessly released them is not true. The truth is that the principal suspects on this matter are still there, intact with the police.
You're watching News Now on News Central Television. We'll go on a short break. There's more after this break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. And now to other matters. The former Nigerian military president, Ibrahim Babangida, has for the first time declared that the late MKO Abiola was indeed the winner of the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election. He made this startling revelation in Abuja at the unveiling of his long-awaited autobiography, A Journey in Service, coming more than 3 decades after he famously stepped aside from power. His report was filed in by Cyril Abakbu.
The high-profile lunch attracted a host of dignitaries, including President Bola Tinubu and former presidents Olusegun Obasanjo, Yakubu Gowon, Abdulsalami Abubakar, and Goodluck Jonathan. The event was chaired by Obasanjo, while the keynote address was delivered by former president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo.
The book will be reviewed, read, quoted, praised, and lambasted, as some will agree with you in part, and some will disagree with you in part. Some may even wholly disagree with you. Why should you write the book? It is self-glorification, they will say. Controversy may even develop. It's all good for you, and it's good for the book, and for our nation-building process.
And for our prospects of effective integration to materialize, the Federal Republic of Nigeria has to assume her historic responsibilities and lead our development towards an integrated democratic West Africa and Africa. That evolution cannot succeed without you, but you will be its greatest beneficiary.
Former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo reviewed Babangida's memoir.
Upon closer examination of the original collated figures from the 110 polling booths nationwide, it was clear that he satisfied the 2 main constitutional requirements for winning the presidential elections, mainly majority votes and geographical spread. having obtained 8,128,720 votes against Tofa's 5,848,247 votes, and securing the mandatory 1/3 of the votes cast in 28 states of the Federation, including Abuja. I am gratified that the Buhari administration finally recognized him as a former head of state of Nigeria.
Son of the celebrator also had some words.
One person who would have loved to be here today, who would have loved to share in this very special moment, would have been our late dear mother and the former First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida.
But such fond memories were not in short supply.
When I visited your school, I said, if you can join the army. And your headmaster at that time, or head of school at that time, was one famous teacher called Mr. Onimole. And I think there are about 10 of you who, in the end, decided to join the army.
Then came the moment many had anticipated. It gave the celebrator a historic opportunity to appeal to the nation's conscience.
As the leader of the military administration, I accept full responsibility for all decisions taken under my watch. And June 12 happened under my watch. Mistakes, oversights, and missteps happened in quick succession. Our nation's march to democracy was interrupted, a fact that I deeply regret.
President Bola Tinubu also weighed in with thoughts on the path Nigeria must be on to attain her vital destiny.
I confronted you that you had an opportunity to make history that day, and you failed to do it. Why not inaugurate us? Why are you calling us back and postponing the inauguration day? They thought I will end up in jail. You came out right at the end of the remark. You shook me. I can't forget that picture. You said, you are courageous.
The book also offers insight into key moments in the country's history, including the 1976 coup attempt that led to the assassination of the then head of state, Murtala Mohammed, and the 1986 letter bomb that killed investigative journalist Delegiwa, among others.
Meanwhile, reactions are emerging following former military president Ibrahim Babangida's revelation on the controversial 1993 presidential election. Pan-Yoruba social-political organization Afenifere described it as belated and insufficient to address its far-reaching consequences. In a statement by its organizing secretary, Kole Omololu, the group asserted that Babangida's acknowledgement of the election's credibility did not absolve him or his associates of the irreversible damage caused by the annulment. Omololu said all Nigerians bore the brunt of Babangida's decision, which plunged the country into chaos and ushered in an era of state-sponsored terror against democracy, activists, pro-democracy media, and innocent citizens who dared to demand justice. A former secretary to the government of the Federation during the Babangida regime, Chief Olu Fale, has also wavered off IBB's remorse. Fale noted that Babangida said nothing new. He recalled how he was incarcerated for 2 years for fighting to uphold Abiola's mandate. He noted that it was common knowledge that Abiola won the election. Meanwhile, a chieftain of the National Democratic Coalition, Ayo Okpadokun, also dismissed the ex-Nigerian leader's admission, describing it as unsurprising. Speaking on the consequences of Babangida's decision, Okpadokun said he was more interested in reading Babangida's autobiography to understand the circumstances the former president claimed led to the annulment of the historic election. On the contrary, the coalition of northern groups have praised the former military leader for for demonstrating the courage to own up to his faults over the annulment of the June 12 presidential election. The CNG, in a statement by its national coordinator, Jamilu Charanchi, he described Babangida as an exemplary leader who distinguished himself by taking responsibility for his decision. A group called Coalition for Good Governance has asked the Nigerian police, DSS and other security agencies to investigate the rising number of alleged political killings in Osun State. At a press briefing in Lagos, the convener of the group, Nelson Okujimi, says he is worried that the state has become very unsecure due to a result of violent disagreements between members of political parties in the state. Okujimi also wants peace restored immediately before the situation in and around the state deteriorates.
All Nigerians of goodwill must caution and advise and prevail on Governor Ademola Adeleke and the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission to put on hold the local government election slated for this Saturday, February 22, 2025. We implore the Nigerian Police Force, the DSS and other security agencies in the country to extend their invitation to Senator Lere Oyewumi and Honorable Ibrahim Inaolaji in connection with the gruesome murder of late Remi Abbas. We are not holding them responsible, but we are asking that they have been fingered in the murder of this gentleman.
We are appealing to all political gladiators to say, look, we have gone through, it will be 26 years of uninterrupted democratic governance. I think our political class should have learned their lessons. They should have known where to stop. Toying with the lives of an average Nigerian is, I mean, it's heinous. It's hard off.
Unacceptable.
It's unacceptable to us that people will sit down, plan and execute the killing of an opponent, and they will walk away like that and nothing will happen.
Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun has said that the local government election slated for Saturday would hold. He expressed his resolve after Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi on Thursday advised Adeleke not to proceed with the election. Fagbemi urged Adeleke to respect the Court of Appeal Akure judgment, which he said restored the All Progressives Congress, APC, local government chairman and councillors sacked in 2022 by the Federal High Court, Osogbo. But in a statement in Osogbo on Friday, Adeleke noted that democracy is governed by the rule of law and that nobody could assume the authority of the court. He advised all parties, including local and national stakeholders, to abide by democratic norms. The governor expressed satisfaction with the level of preparation by the state electoral body. And now we're joined by Peter Ame, is a politician and secretary of the Coalition of Nigerian Political Parties, who joins us live from Abuja. Mr. Ame, many thanks for doing this with us. Let's just get started because we're pressed for time. We have a case where politics is again playing out, but with great bitterness this time. Violence, disagreement, the list is endless. From your position in this as opposition, what do you make of this scenario in Osun State?
I think, first of all, we need to get this thing right, because the interference and all the violence that is occurring is as a result of the fact that we have had different kind of irregularities that have marred the conduct of local government elections in Nigeria. So people don't really believe in the process. But what is happening today is that Section 197 that is supposed to that gave CX power to be able to conduct free and fair local government for election for political parties to participate and then put their candidate forward is under trial today. For the Attorney General, what I felt he should have done is to stay clear of this process so that if the case is going to Supreme Court for further interpretation, then they would have gone to Supreme Court, because he's saying that the case was dismissed by the Court of Appeal. But what was the dismissal about? Because first of all, it was the Federal High Court that removed them. So if the case is dismissed, is he saying that it was dismissed based on the fact that it was the appeal by the APC candidate of the local government was not substantial enough to sustain the appeal? Or was it dismissed on the fact that the case does not have the the necessary ingredient to pass through the scrutiny of the judges. So we need to understand this fact that the check is the creation of the Constitution and has been empowered by Section 197 to conduct local government elections. And if the elections have been set, there's no court of law, office of law that will stop the election from holding. It is because if you set that kind of precedent, that means if we set date of election for national election, then there will court of law that will also stop that. So let everybody be patient. Let them go through the process of the election and stop using state apparatus, because the violence is uncalled for. The forceful takeover of secretariat is uncalled for, and the security agency acting as if they are not aware of the situation and people are dying is so embarrassing. And we should be able to have security agencies that must be beholden to the people, either by people of Osun State or people of Nigeria, so that they can always do their work without political interference, so that they can also go and know that if the APC and PDP are fighting, anybody who dies, the people who die there are Nigerians. So they should be able to go there and then put a stop to that and not take sides. So what we are saying today and what we are saying today is a result that, yes, democracy is on trial. It's on trial based on what? Because the Attorney General's word actually is not a force of law. What he's saying is an advice. But that advice can be taken by the CX, because what we have today in Nigeria, we have independent electoral commissions, each in each of the states, which is 36, and we have one for the federal, which is the Independent National Electoral Commission. So we cannot have a situation where another Attorney General will come another time and also be dictated to state whether they should conduct election or not. If there's any clarity that must come to this case, it must go to Supreme Court. Mr.
Ahmed, I mean, there's a lot going on in the state to the point where the House of Reps had to ask the DSS DG and the police IG to, just to be on guard to restore some sort of normalcy to the streets of Osun State. And there's also been rumors that there might be a declaration or a state of emergency declaration. At this point, what then will be a solution, a long-lasting solution going into Saturday tomorrow?
A long-lasting solution is to ensure that elections are conducted. You can't put a stop to a process that is already ongoing. The date of election has been set. That is what the court have always said. The people have declared to participate. The APC said they are withdrawing for the election. How many times a party withdraw from election in Nigeria that the election was stopped? There are other cases at their disposal to remedy their case. If the election has been conducted, they can go to the tribunal or further their case to the court of Supreme Court. So nobody should put the citizens of Osun, our own fellow Nigerians, under immense tension because of power. Because if it's done for the interest of the people, it should not lead to the death of the people. Because the people demand that there should be peace and tranquility within the state, and there should be proper governance within the state. If the APC goes to the election tomorrow and they lost, they can appeal, they can go to the tribunal, and if they refuse to proceed to participate in the election, they can forward their case to the Supreme Court, where we will have clarity on what should have been done, or the process that were followed, whether it was sanctioned by the court or sanctioned by the Constitution of Nigeria. So we cannot have people who political power determines their interest for the people of the state.
Mr. Ahmed, it's hard to tell whether tomorrow will be peaceful, if going to the polls tomorrow will be the solution. Because, I mean, seeing how it's played out this past days or week is only begs to ask the question how tomorrow will be like, and whether or not the electorate will be safe enough to come out to cast their votes. But we're out of time. Mr. Peter Ahmed, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you.
Let's go on a short break. When we return, or better yet, coming up, the Rwanda government has condemned the U.S. decision to sanction their government, especially a government minister. We have the details just after the break. Join us again. Hey, welcome back. The Rwandan government has condemned the U.S. decision to sanction a government minister for his alleged role in the conflict in the east of neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Announcing the financial sanctions on Thursday, the U.S. Treasury Department said Rwanda's Minister of State for Regional Integration, James Kabarebe, a former army chief, was central to his country's support for the M23 rebel group. Also sanctioned was Lawrence Kanyuka, the M23's spokesman, as well as two companies who he controls in Britain and France. On Friday, the UK said that there would be consequences for Rwanda over its alleged role in DR Congo. Responding to the U.S. move, Rwanda's foreign ministry said the sanctions would not resolve the conflict in the DR Congo, terming them unjustified and unfounded. Away from that, now it's day 2 for the G20 ministerial meeting in Johannesburg, South Africa. After a long wait, or rather a long first day of discussions, ministers are discussing further into the complexities of global economic growth, trying to find common ground amidst diverse interests. And we'll bring you the full detail. Our correspondent is supposed to be live there, Bongani Ziziba, who is live on ground. We'll bring you, Bongani, if you're there, we're going to cross over to you now.
Very good afternoon to our viewers at home. Still live here at Nasrec in Johannesburg, where the ministerial meeting day 2 is taking place, with ministers having discussions behind closed doors. We know that yesterday the president of the country, President Ramaphosa, made significant statements emphasizing the importance of diplomacy amid heightened geopolitical tensions. He also reaffirmed the absence of high delegation from the United States, saying that their absence would not hinder the progress of these meetings. He also insisted the role of Africa as of South Africa rather as the host, just to facilitate dialogues among these countries, the ministers that are here, and also that the African voices should be heard loudly, and also that African nations should unite in growth among African countries. It's so paramount for the development and sustainability of African countries in this global landscape. But let's take a listen to what Crispin Piri, the spokesperson for Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, what he had to say.
As the world's top diplomats gathered here to really speak about the geopolitical situation in the world, but also pressing issues that affect many nation states, the rise of artificial intelligence, how do nation states deal with that, the need for food security amongst African countries, are examples of what South Africa's G20 presidency want to tackle, and those are the discussions that are currently underway at the moment. On the geopolitical situation in the world, we've seen a number of countries agreeing that the conflicts in Palestine, Gaza, the DRC, Sudan, and the Ukraine, we need to find a peaceful resolution to those conflicts, and there's a general consensus around that in the room.
Judith, it's quite a clear message from South Africa that Africans' interests and ambitions cannot be sidelined in these discussions that are happening here. There's also a strong commitment to bringing African perspective to the forefront, and also making sure that they reinforce everything, especially when it comes to global powers. But also this platform is to champion the interest of African continent. And we also know that later today we anticipate a briefing from the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, that is Ronald Lamola, just to provide the media the insights into the outcomes of these ongoing discussions that are happening behind closed doors. We expect to hear more on how South Africa is paving a way for a more exclusive and maybe equitable international cooperation, and also how these collaborative efforts are aimed at tackling pressing issues such as climate change, trade, economic recovery, especially during post-COVID. But as we continue to monitor these developments here, it's also pivotal to remember that this gathering is an opportunity for dialogue, not just within the G20 nations, but for a broader global community, particularly, Judith, on the continent of Africa. So, Judith, we continue monitoring these discussions rather that are happening here, and I will get back to you and our viewers just to give an update after these discussions are done. It's now back to you in the studio, Judith.
Many thanks, Bongani. Bongani Ziziba there live from South Africa following the G20 High Summit meeting for ministerials and just diplomats from African nations discussing geopolitical issues that affects the African continent. Israeli authorities have arrested 2 suspects believed to have aided bus bombings near Tel Aviv. Already, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz are coordinating efforts in response to the explosions in central Israel. Following the blast, Netanyahu ordered an intensive operation against centers of terrorism in the West Bank. Meanwhile, Katz has directed the military to escalate operations targeting Palestinian militants in West Bank refugee camps, particularly in Tulkarem. The explosions occurred on Thursday evening in Bat Yam, where 3 buses were detonated, though no injuries were reported. Authorities suspect Palestinian militant groups were behind the attacks. In addition to the military operation, Katz also ordered increased security measures in Israeli cities to prevent further attacks. Police bomb disposal units were deployed to search for additional explosives. French League One club Stade Reims has confirmed Saba Diawari as their permanent head coach for the departure of Luka Elsner. Diawari, a former Mali international, was previously Reims' assistant coach. His appointment was announced on Thursday ahead of the crucial match against Stade Reims. Now, Reims General Director Mathieu Lacour emphasized that Diawari is not just a temporary solution, but a long-term choice. The 46-year-old takes charge at a difficult time where the club's winless in 11 matches, sitting just 14th in the League One, just 4 points above relegation. Diawari's first challenge as head coach will be leading the club to victory against Reims and reviving their season. Former Netherlands international and Feyenoord's legend Robin van Persie has reportedly been appointed as the new head coach for Feyenoord. Signing a contract until June 2027, he also had a stellar playing career with the club, Arsenal, as well as Manchester United. He now steps into management at the club. According to reports, he will be joined by René Haak, who previously worked as an assistant to Manchester United's manager, Erik ten Hag. This marks a new chapter for him and as he looks to guide the club to success in the Dutch league. Spanish footballer Jenny Hermoso will appeal the verdict against former Spain football chief Luis Rubiales. Her lawyer has now confirmed Rubiales was found guilty of sexual assault for forcibly kissing Hermoso during the 2023 Women's World Cup medal ceremony. He was fined $11,300 but avoided jail time. Prosecutors had served a 2.5-year prison sentence, including 18 months for coercion, but the court acquitted him of that charge. Now, he insists the kiss was consensual and plans to appeal. And that's all we can take at this time. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The former ministries, federal ministries in Nigeria begin their scorecard briefing in the capital, Abuja, ahead of the president's 2nd anniversary in office. And police in Anambra rearrest SKP suspects connected with the murder of state lawmaker Justice Azuka. And lastly, we told you about Rwanda as they're being condemned as U.S. government sanctions over conflict in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember, they can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, on Star Times channel 274. We're also on Apple TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.